Fängt ja gut an, aber ich bin ein bisschen enttäuscht. Ich habe gedacht, sie würden jetzt wirklich den Imperial March aus Star Wars alle mitbrummen und singen. Wir hatten es gerade vorhin noch auf YouTube und der ist so leicht. Also vielleicht, wenn wir dann rausgehen wieder, machen sie es vielleicht. Ja, herzlich willkommen zu diesem Abend mit Chris Carter und Vanja Müß. Es ist der zweite Abend, den Vanja Müß in Deutschland verbringt. Und natürlich so ein Start in German and then we go on in English. Dieses Buch ist das 9. in der Reihe mit Robert Hunter. Es heißt auf Englisch Gallery of the Dead, auf Deutsch Blutrausch. Sie haben es ja alle schon in der Hand. Und natürlich ein völlig anderer Titel ist das im Englischen als im Deutschen. Und ich habe so das Gefühl, es war nicht einfach für Chris, dieses Buch zu schreiben. Er hat irgendwie vorhin gesagt, das Buch wäre, it was even a greater challenge than the other 8.
Well, every book for me is difficult to write because I never really wanted to be a writer. This book, first let me explain the way I write. I don't plan a story, ever. I have no notes, 0 notes. I don't have anything saved on the side. I just think of a little idea for a plot and then I start writing a book. That's how I do it. And that was my problem with this book. There was a lot of interruptions last year while I was writing this book. I travel a lot. I go to a lot of festivals, like rock festivals. so it was all these kind of interruptions. And usually, because I don't have notes, I keep the story in my head all the time. So I know exactly what's happening on the book in my head. I don't have anything written anywhere. So I was way past half of the book. It was about 3/4 of the book in. And I didn't like something, so I decided to go back to the beginning and read the book from the beginning. And then when I read the book from the beginning, it was a disaster. it was so bad. Because this is the first time that this has ever happened. I lost track of the continuity of the book in my head. So, for example, I said something in the beginning of the book about a character. And then later in the book, I said something about the character again. And it was completely different from what I said before. And I didn't remember that. So when I reread the book, I was like, oh my God, this is completely different. I'm writing something like on page 300 about this, and I already mentioned it before on like page 100, but it's completely different. So I had to go back and change a lot of the book. And this was, I had 2 months before my deadline. So then I panicked. No, to me, that's one of the easiest things is the beginning. For several reasons. One is you're very excited because you just, usually before beginning a book, you just came from a break because nobody finishes a book and start another one. So you come from a break. So you all rested and you want to go back to work again and you want to start a book. So to me, the beginning is very easy. And throughout the vacation, whatever break I have, I'm thinking about what's going to be the next book. So obviously the idea is very fresh and I just want to start. And as I said, I don't really plan the books very much. I just have a little idea in my head. As an example, my second novel called The Executioner. The only idea I had in my head to write the book was a killer who kills his victims using the victim fear. So he finds out what people are scared of and kills them using that. So if you're scared of spiders, he's gonna kill you with the spiders. If you're scared of heights, he's gonna kill you with heights. That was it. That was the whole idea for the book. And I just sat down and started writing. I didn't have a beginning. I just sat and I was like, okay, what can I do? How is the book gonna work? The idea for the next book, the book after this, is the same thing. And all the books were one line. Gallery of the Dead was a killer who uses murder as an art, you know, so he uses the crime scene as like a canvas and he prepares everything beautifully and stuff. So all my ideas come from one line and then I just sit down and write it. So the beginning for me, it's exciting because I try to open every book with something that hooks the reader straight away. Like, in my opinion, you have to hook the reader within 2 chapters maximum, or else it just gets boring. So I always come up with an idea that I like for the first chapter. So starting to me is quite easy. It's the middle and the ending that's very difficult.
Die berühmte Frage nach dem Anfang eines Buches. Es gibt ja auch immer die Frage nach dem berühmten. We give you vodka.
Have a Jägermeister for everybody, please. No, it's good, it's good. It's just a bit salty, but it's fine.
Salty,
Yeah.
salty vodka.
Salt water.
German.
Salty caramel vodka is good.
They only drink
Yeah,
that
let's
in
talk
Dortmund.
about drinks. Okay. Forget about the books, the drinks are better.
Also nochmal zu unserem ernsten Thema des Buches zurückzukommen. Kleiner Spaß beiseite. Nein, also wie gesagt, jetzt kommt der Vollstrecker. Das erinnert mich direkt auch an das Buch, das erwähnt hat, der Vollstrecker.
Well, yeah, the other constant element, because obviously they're the two detectives. But I get a lot of emails of people saying that the relationship between Hunter and Garcia are very good and they can relate to the two characters and everything. And again, none of it was planned. Hunter wasn't planned, you know. It was just a character. I needed a character, and I just wrote a detective. But I didn't want him to be by himself, so I said, okay, I'm going to give him a partner. So I created Garcia. But the relationship they have, and people enjoy it so much. Again, is I don't sit at home thinking, okay, what can I do in the next book that the relationship is gonna get better or not. I mean, there's one scene on the new book, book 10, that's gonna come out next year, that Garcia is much more prominent. And I know already that people are gonna talk about the scene, but it just, again, is the same thing that I was saying just before about all the other chapters. It happens as I'm writing. I don't plan it. As I'm writing, and then there's a scene that Hunter is talking to Garcia about something important in the book. And I just imagine in my head how two people would talk to each other, you know, two very good friends would talk to each other about something. And that's how I write the scenes. Nothing, I don't sit around thinking, okay, I need to make this, that Garcia talks more, or Hunter talks less, or Hunter has to be more intelligent in this scene. I don't do that. I just write a dialogue the ways I think it would work in real life. That's how I do it.
But Chris, what is interesting, yesterday when we met after 2 years again for the first time, I asked you who is rather you, Hunter or Garcia, and you were thinking for like 20 seconds, and you said, well, they're both me. So you're talking to yourself in your head and write them down?
Well, I talk to myself all the time. I'm my best friend. It's like, seriously. Not like America. America, you know, is different. People more than their best friend. They're their own cousins over there. There's like America's weird. No, but yeah, it's a lot of people ask me if Hunter is my alter ego or something, and it's not. But every author who writes a series, I think they use a little bit of themselves in the character. And the reason for that is very simple. It's easy for you to talk about what you know, right? So for example, I have insomnia. Hunter has insomnia. No, I didn't give him insomnia because I have insomnia and I know how bad it is, and I know I can talk about insomnia, no problem. I don't have to research and everything because I've lived with it for many years. So I have insomnia, Hunter has insomnia. I'm a bit of a loner, Hunter is a bit of a loner. I like rock music, he likes rock music. I like whiskey, he likes whiskey. It's like, so a lot of the stuff is very simple. And then Carlos is the other one, you know. I have long hair, he has long hair. I'm from Brazil, he's from Brazil. So it's things like that. You always add a little bit of yourself. But yeah, the conversations, it's all the conversations, I think maybe the authors have told you this, but all of us authors are a bit schizophrenic, all of us. We have to be, because you have to write conversations in the book, right? But you do those conversations alone in your house by yourself, right? So sometimes you're having a conversation between two lovers, a girl and a guy. So you have to write both parts, right? I don't know how other writers do it, but I actually move around. Seriously, I'll go. If I say something, they say, "Oh, you look lovely tonight." Then I get up, I walk around the house, oh, thank you, and everything. I do that, you know. I do crazy stuff. I mean, it had bits that that my girlfriend walked into the office and I'm on the floor like looking up. She's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "I'm just testing something. Just go away." It's like I'm fine. But I think every author does that. We have to be a little, because you have to imagine different people with different quirks. Now let's say at 10 o'clock and get up at 5 in the morning. But I just didn't sleep exactly from 10 to 5. It's like, so you wake up, but then I've done it so often that you just get used to it. It's like waking up early every morning. The first time you start getting up, let's say if you have to go to work and gotta get up at 5 in the morning, the first time you're like, oh my God. But you do it for 1 year, 2 years, then it's like getting up at 5 in the morning is just normal, you know. So to me, having the broken sleep is a normal night.
Oh wow, also in Hunter...
I'm not gonna be... Nothing is different between them. Okay, here we go. Okay, as Hunter Garcia crossed Robbery Homicide Division's floor in the direction of the office, they both frowned as they noticed that the door was ajar. "Did you forget to lock the office?" Hunter asked. Garcia looked back at him sideways. "You were behind me when we left, remember?" See, I told you, same place. So, "You were behind me when we left, remember? If anybody forgot to lock anything, it was you." "I never forget to lock the door," Hunter said. "Maybe the captain's in there," Garcia came back. Yeah, but why?" As they at last got to their office, Hunter and Garcia stopped by the open door. Captain Blake wasn't in there. Instead, standing directly in front of their picture board, with her back towards them, and seemingly studying all the photographs that had been pinned onto it, was a 5'8" woman. Her black hair had been elegantly styled into a shoulder-length beach wave. She wore a perfectly cut dark gray suit, jacket, and a matching knee-length skirt. Hunter didn't need to ask to know who she was. Garcia, on the other hand, had no clue who the woman was. He was much more impulsive. "Excuse me," he said, his tone firm and demanding. "Who the hell are you, and how did you get in here?" "He skinned her?" the woman said. She also has exactly the same voice as them, by the way. This is a weird book. It's like, you know, everybody sounds the same. Okay, let me go back. Okay, excuse me, guys, I'm going back to where Garcia said, "Who the hell are you, and how did you get in here?" "He skinned her?" the woman asked without turning around and completely disregarding Garcia's question. "And he severed her hands and feet?" The surprise in her voice was undeniable. Garcia's head jerked back momentarily as his eyes widened in wonder. "Sorry, lady, are you hard of hearing? This office is out of bounds to everyone. You can't be in here." "And what the hell is this?" she asked, still facing the board. "Is this a frozen cat? What the hell is going on here?" Garcia looked at Hunter. "Is she for real?" It's like, who the hell is this woman? And how do we turn on her hearing aid? He addressed the woman again. "Hey, crazy lady, over here, I've got chocolate." She's FBI, Hunter said. Just before you saw it, there's obviously, as you guys heard it, there's a scene where there's a cat who dies. I got so many emails about this dead cat. It's like, I can't believe I killed a cat, I killed kids, I killed everybody, nobody killed them, I killed one cat?
Also es gibt eine Katze, die umkommt, die wird dann im Tiefgefroren gefunden bei der ersten Leiche, die wir erleben. Und darüber haben sich die Leser von Chris Carter viel mehr aufgeregt als über 1000 zerstückelte Leichen. Die tote Katze, jawohl, so ist es.
Als Hunter und Garcia die Etage des Raub- und Morddezernats durchquerten und ihr Büro ansteuerten, sahen sie, dass ihre Tür einen Spalt weit offen stand. Misstrauisch runzelten sie die Stirn. Hast du vergessen abzuschließen, dass sie die beiden Detectives im Blick hatte, ohne sich jedes Mal umdrehen zu müssen. Sie sagten gerade, sie hätten den Befehl gehabt zu warten, sagte Hunter. Wer hat Ihnen diesen Befehl gegeben? Das war ich. Die unerwartete Antwort ließ alle vor Schreck zusammenzucken. Sie kam von jemandem, der soeben im Türrahmen zu Hunters und Garcias Büro aufgetaucht war.
Erica Fisher. I mean, you worked for such a long time in America, you know, together with the police. And Erica Fisher is a very special kind of woman. Did you meet anyone who was like her, who is the model role for that?
Yeah. The thing when they said that she's a special woman is just because, like so many things, it's still a very male-dominated world and professions. You know, there's one thing. There's one trick that I use in one of the books that I mentioned a profession, and then a lot of people come back to me going, but you said that the killer was a man. I was like, no, I never said that the killer was a man. I said the killer was a doctor. And automatically, as soon as you say doctor, most people will imagine a man, not a woman. It's a normal thing. This is a psychological trick that we use. But especially in the case of police officers and FBI agents, it's an extremely male-dominated society and job. So when a woman in America makes FBI agent, they try to work even harder than the guys because they want to prove themselves. You know, because they know it's very, very difficult, and you know the guys they have the little men's club about FBI agents and stuff. So she overworks. That's what it happens on the book. She really pushes herself hard to prove to the director of the NCABC and to Hunter that she can be the leader of the team, because it ends up being a joint investigation in between the FBI and the LAPD, and she is the leader or the head of the task force that gets assigned. So you see a lot of people like that. But not only with the police, any woman that has a job that is usually attributed to a man, like it could be like the lead surgical, you know, doctor for the cardiac, you know.
More than most guys. Yeah, they work more than most guys.
I didn't notice. Of course not. No, but so yes, I met a lot of women. Not only in the FBI, because I didn't meet that many people from the FBI.
I mean, in your books, no, they have different motives.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. Sorry, Reality and Fiction. Nein, Frauen als Serienkiller. Frauen morden nicht ganz so blutig, aber sie machen es auch geschickt. Gift und Erwürgen sind die Waffen der Frau. Number 10 was on its way. But in your book, it's interesting. We soon hear about the killer. There is no sexual motive. Is that boring to you, the idea that that's because that's the common motive?
No, it's not that's boring. It's just the two things I try not to talk very much in the books, and it's simply because as a writer, when you don't know what people have experienced in their life, and when they're reading a book, if you read something that is very close to you, they get very affected, right? So the two things, I know I will end up talking about it in one of the books, but I try not to talk about rape, about sexual abuse, male and female, and I try not to talk about the killing of infants, the killing of children, simply because it's a very sore subject. And in one of the books, I Am Death, is the first book that I use a kid. There's a kid at the beginning of the book that gets kidnapped. And I think he's 13 or 12, I don't remember the age I made the kid. But there's a big twist with this kid towards the end of the book. But I remember getting quite a few emails from people that they stopped reading the book right at the beginning because the kid gets kidnapped by a serial killer, and the serial killer really abuses the kid. And obviously I describe a little bit of what's going on, and they got really offended. And I said, look, stay with the book because there's a huge twist towards the end using the kid. You know, it's not really what you're thinking. But people do get affected. So that is the main reason. I don't really like talking because I've been to scenes. I mean, I'm not a father. I've never been a father. I don't have kids. Never had. But I've been to crime scenes where there were kids. They were victims, and it touches you in a different way. You know, I've been to loads of different crime scenes with all different kinds of bodies. But if you walk into a crime scene that there have been kids, it beggars belief what people can do. I said this yesterday. One of the first crime scenes I ever walked in when I just started working for the district attorney's office, they had put a baby inside a microwave and turned it on. That was one of the first crime scenes I walked in. And there's another one, and this one I actually use in the book as well. This guy, he was watching a game, and he had a girlfriend with a brand new baby, and the baby was crying, and we've all heard babies crying. It's extremely annoying. But there's a reason for that. That's nature for you. The sound of a baby is the most annoying sound to the human ear. And there's a reason for it, because that's nature. So you cannot ignore the sound of a crying baby. If you're human, you cannot ignore the sound of a crying baby, because it really irritates your ear more than any kind of sound. So he was trying to watch the game, the baby was crying, he was trying to scream at his girlfriend, saying, shut the baby up. So the girlfriend didn't shut up the baby. He got up, grabbed the baby, threw the baby out the window. That's 10 floors, the baby screamed. The girlfriend panicked. He grabbed the girlfriend, threw the girlfriend out the window. So he threw his baby and his girlfriend out the window. When the police kicked this guy's door in, he was sitting watching a basketball game, eating cornflakes. Like if nothing had happened. So this is the kind of madness that the world is in at the moment. So I've been to crime scenes where there's been kids, and I've been I know people that have been sexually assaulted, sexually abused, and I've been to crime scenes as well. And it's very horrible, and it's a very unfortunately, the thing about sexual assault is become more common nowadays. I don't know if it really become more common. But most of us will know at least one person. So if I write that in a book, it can affect the readers very, very badly, and they won't read the book anymore because they thought, no, I don't like reading about this. So I try my best not to talk about it. So 10 books so far, I'm still doing well. So hopefully it'll carry on.
Yeah, so it's sexual motive, but something completely different.
Yeah, the idea for this one, again, it came from because we are authors, whatever we write, thrillers or whatever, we're always looking for a little idea of something that you can, and it can happen anytime. You can see something on the street, or you can hear something, or you can, watch, even get a little piece of a film and go, oh, I can make that little thing into a whole story. So there was a case in America of a killer that he staged his scenes like a canvas, so he would, spread the body in a certain way and then move things around the room to make it look in a certain way. So some serial killers do that. And there is as well, actually it was on Facebook not very long ago, there's an artist that he did a whole book of drawings, and he used his blood instead of paint. So he used his own blood and he painted, and there's a whole book of this, I swear to God. So there's a little bit of writing, but there's a drawing, and everything. So when you see something like this, for us authors, so you read about an artist that decided to write a whole illustration book using blood, we automatically go, okay, idea right there, right? You can twist that in so many different ways for an author. So there was this killer in America that you stage his crime scenes as a canvas. So I had heard about that a while ago, but I have way too many ideas running around the head. So I was like, okay, that's gonna go in the locker, and someday I'm gonna use it. So I decided to use it now. So that is how the idea for this came. It was based on a real case, yeah.
Ja, woher?
Die Tür zum Vernehmungsraum 1 fiel mit einem heftigen Schwung hinter Agent Fischer ins Schloss. Doch das laute Geräusch entlockte dem Mann am Tisch keine erkennbare Reaktion. Er hielt weiterhin den Blick gesenkt, als hätte er ein unsichtbares Buch auf den Knien, in dem er gerade las. Agent Fischer studierte den Mann noch eine Weile von der Tür aus, ehe sie langsam
Da kann ich mich beim Vorreden da nur anschließen. Chris, thank you so much for coming with book number 9. So we wait for book number 10, which will be published in the UK in the early spring and in Germany in August. And then you must come back again. It's not Mordam Helwig next year, but we find so many places where you're more than welcome in Germany. Thank you. Come back, please. Thank you so much.